The more you try and hold and possess money, the more money will leave you. You're gonna lose friendships and you're gonna have to cut ties with people. When I moved to Argentina when I was 17, I met a guy named Luke Belmar. He was 15 years old. Like, you have to make certain decisions that are going to upset people in order to push your success. And then all of a sudden, all of these things, this money, just became like numbers on a screen. With my SEO agency, a lot of people don't know this. I have never done an actual SEO work for any one of my clients. And a lot of people are like, man, I just need to find that ideal thing that's my passion, that I like doing, that I'm good at, whatever. Find something you're good at. That's the only thing that you really need to do. Is if I see money, currency moving slowly, my goal is to take it and move it at more of an incline. And if money is your motivation for things, you're not going to get money. That's the problem with a lot of people, is money is just something that you need to use as a tool to get what you would like to accomplish. The reason that I am successful today and that most people are successful is they've...
What do you think have been some of the less obvious reasons why you've been able to find success?
There is a key that I have figured out very quickly in building my businesses, is the ability to basically push your work to get done by someone else and leveraging other people's time. That's something that I got good at very quickly. And the reason that I got good at it was because there was a lot of things that I knew that I did not want to do, that I did not want to spend my time on, that I did not want to focus on, that were boring to me, that were mundane, that weren't interesting, that weren't my passions, etc. So very, very quickly, I discovered how to be able to leverage other people's time so that I did not have to do those tasks that I did not want to do. For example, with my SEO agency, a lot of people don't know this, but I've never actually done SEO for a client. I've never been on someone's website. I've never changed a meta tag for someone. I've never gone out and got a backlink for anyone. I have never done an actual SEO work for any one of my clients. At the very, very beginning, I did something which is kind of similar to like drop servicing, where I found freelancers or people that already did SEO, and then I would be just the middleman that would go out and sell them and basically white label other people. And I started building my agency that way because I knew from the very, very beginning that I did not want to manage clients, that I did not want to do the work, that I did not want to build the systems and the SOPs inside the agency, and that the only thing that I wanted to really do was to go out and find clients and sell to them. So I was able to focus on the things that I was good at. I was able to focus on the things that I had passion for, while being able to successfully delegate that work to other people. I tell people sometimes that it's kind of like laziness, because laziness pushes me forward. What makes me work harder is doing less work, if that makes sense. Because the harder I work in delegating my work and in training people up to do my work, the less work that I have to do. Now, it is a never-ending cycle because there's always more and more work to do. But that has been one of the things that I think has pushed me to the path that I am now. I actually do this exercise pretty much every single month, where I write down tasks that I do on a regular basis. And when I write down these tasks, I also write down, well, how long does it take me to do it each day or each week, or whatever it might be. And then I look at that sheet and I go out on somewhere like Upwork or Fiverr or Indeed or Glassdoor, or wherever you want to go, to try and find salaries or what it costs for someone else to actually do that work. And say, for example, that one of the things is like, I don't know, writing our email newsletter every week, right? And maybe it takes me an hour to do every single week. So I go out and then I find how much it costs a copywriter to write my email every single week, and say it costs like $100 for them to do it. And so then I look at that $100, and then I look at how much my perceived value is per hour, what I'm making every single hour. And then if it is less than what I am making, I hire someone to do that. And the reason that I do that is because I do it as an investment. I am investing into that person's time. I am investing into that person so that then I can spend my time doing things that can push the needle forward much faster.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I think if hard work was the answer, then everybody working 12 hours a day would just be super rich and successful. And that's like half the world. So there's always so many more factors than just hard work.
Well, it depends. It depends where you are. Like if you're starting from the beginning, sorry to cut you off. I mean, if you're starting from the beginning, like working hard is important. You have to work hard, and that's why most people like getting to that first client, getting to that first sale. That's like one of the hardest things to do. Once you have momentum, momentum is really easy to push forward and then to continue to grow. But getting that momentum started, that is what actually takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And a lot of people want that to come easy, and they want it to be as easy as it is for me, for them starting off at the very beginning. And it's just not how it's going to work, because I am already on an upward trend. I am already on momentum moving forward. So it's a lot easier for me to push a rock that's already moving forward than to get a rock that's sitting still, a boulder that's already sitting still, and trying to push it to get it moving, right? So I think that's one of the things that a lot of people miss is they're like, "Oh, I just have to work on the high leverage tasks and I just have to figure out what those are." And no, really at the beginning you just have to work your butt off. Right? You just have to get in the trenches and you have to work for a year and figure out what the heck you're going to do and figure out how to do it. And then from there start being able to leverage the high level tasks, but that's because you've already built a team, you've already built people that understand how to do those mundane tasks on a regular basis. But you had to figure out how to do it first, because if you don't figure out how to do it, you can't train or manage someone else that does it. Right? It's kind of like the concept like you run a car washing business. If you didn't know how to detail a car and how to what products to use and how to do it, you couldn't tell someone else how to do it. You had to go out, figure out how to do it yourself, do all the detailing, talk to the customers, know how to treat them, know how to sell to them, find out how long it takes to get there, what it actually costs to do it, whatever, all the things that you have to figure out before you could hire someone else to go out and do that for you, because you don't know until you've figured it out. So you do have to put in the hard work before you can start leveraging those high level tasks.
Yeah, that's exactly the case. Like when I first started out my business, I had to do pretty low leverage work that I could probably hire an employee to do for maybe 15 bucks an hour. But because I was just starting out and I didn't have the money to hire an employee and really scale my business up, I had to do that stuff by myself. Like I had to go out every day for a couple hours a day and put flyers on cars. And even though like I could easily hire someone to do that, it just isn't very logical when you're first starting up the business. And I think I honestly tried to rush into that too soon. I tried to scale too quickly. And because of that, I had to kind of scale my business back and just do it on my own for the first little bit to really get the hang of it. A lesson that taught me was that it's so important to work as hard as you can for the first little while before you try and outsource your tasks and like try and find more leverage.
I mean, there are ways to do it at the beginning if you understand the concept. I started a little bit later in my entrepreneur game. I started around when I was around 26 or 27. So I had some of the street smarts, and I already knew how to manage teams. I knew how to do things. So for me at the very beginning, delegating is what made sense because I didn't want to do it. Um, so that's why I was able to drop ship right off the bat. But if you're starting off, you're 18, 17, 16, you're in your low 20s, you're in college, whatever it is, and you haven't really done hard work before, or been in the world, or related with people, or know how to manage people, or know how to do sales, then it's going to be very hard. So that's what I mean is you have to get those skills first before you can do those types of things.
Right, yeah. That makes total sense. So there's a tweet that you wrote a few days ago that I really want to go over with you in this podcast is that getting rich is an emotional process. Most people can't stomach the dirty parts of it. And here are four ugly truths that you have to understand in order to win. So the first one is you are going to upset people. Can you explain that one a bit more?
Yes, you are going to accept upset people. It's the reality of it. You can't ever make anyone happy no matter what you do in your life. And this could be family members, friends, whoever it might be, right? And a lot of people, they're in a you are the result of your environment, and a lot of people are around a lot of people that they shouldn't be around, that aren't good influences for them, that aren't pushing them in the right direction. And that was the result for me. That's why I had to leave my hometown when I was 17 and go to Argentina, is because I wasn't in the right environment. I wasn't around the people that were going to help me grow, that were going to push me towards where I needed to be. So I needed to physically lift myself out of an environment and put myself into another environment that was surrounded by people that would push me in the right direction. And so if when that's going to upset people, like it upset people that I left at 17 years old, it upset friends, they missed me, they didn't want me to go, it upset family because I was far from them. Like you have to make certain decisions that are going to upset people in order to push your success. And the other reason is because not only physically lifting yourself out of certain circumstances and removing yourself from certain friendships, but also because it requires a lot of work. You're not going to be able to go out with the boys anymore and hang out with your friends all the time or hang out with your family. You're going to have to make sacrifices and lock yourself in your room, right? Like, and that's just the reality of it. And that's going to upset people because they're not going to really understand what you're doing. And they won't understand what you're doing until you've gotten there. And that was for sure the result for me. My family had no idea what was going on, what I was doing. And they're like, man, you work too much. You're a workaholic. You need to slow down. I don't know what's going on with you. You're disconnected from all these different things, right? And now they see it. Now they're like, oh, okay, well that makes sense now. Now I understand what you were doing. Now we see that you're, speaking on stages, you're on podcasts, you're all this, building these huge companies, etc. And now it all makes sense to them. But during the process, it does upset people, right? And people aren't going to understand it, and you're going to lose friendships, and you're going to have to cut ties with people. One of my closest friends was one of my first business partners, and it just didn't work out. And I'm like, hey, this isn't working. You're not cutting it. You're not in the mission. You don't feel it the same way that I feel it, and we're just going to have to part ways. It's not working out. And to this day, we still don't have a super solid friendship because of that reason, because we completely disconnected and we completely went different paths. And that's going to upset people, right? And it'll even upset yourself. But the reality of it is that you do have to find a good community that's going to push you forward. And if I hadn't found that community, and if I hadn't, that's the reason that I built a community like that, is because if I hadn't found a community, then I would not be where I am today.
Yeah, how did you go about finding that community of good people?
Kind of by chance. So, I mean, not necessarily by chance. Um, it was obviously all part of God's plan and everything. But when I moved to Argentina when I was 17, I met a guy named Luke Belmar. He was 15 years old. So I met Luke Belmar when he was in high school. I saw that he moved back to the U.S. He took a risk, moved to the U.S. He is from Argentina. Thankfully, he had gone to an American school, so he spoke very good English and everything. And then I saw that he was like slowly kind of like making money doing drop shipping, doing different things like that. And I was like, wow, okay, so he's making money online. That's pretty cool. I was still in Argentina even after Luke left. I was still there for in South America for another like 5 or 6 years or something like that. I didn't actually move back here until COVID, which is when I started my business. Um, and so then I saw he was growing his personal brand, that he was making all this money doing who knows what. And then when I had actually started my first business when I was in South America, it was a delivery barber system where basically people would like order their barber on the phone, right? It's kind of like an Uber, but for barbers. And so they'd order their barber on the phone, and then the barber would come to their house, cut their hair in the house, clean up, and then go, right? When I was running that business, I was like, man, I've got no idea what I was doing. So I hit up Luke and I was like, hey, I saw that you're doing like consultation calls, paid him for a consultation call, got on a call with him, and I was like, wow, okay, this business probably, after I figured it out, I was like, this business might be a little bit too much work. It's not necessarily where I want to go, what I want to do. Long story short, we just kept in communication and kept talking. Um, and then once I moved back to the US, I became a freelancer during COVID, just kind of trying to doing marketing stuff and making money online. It wasn't my long-term plan at that point to have a business. I just wanted to make some money online. And then I saw that he was hosting a mastermind um, for Capital Club in Mexico, and I was like, shoot, I'll do it. That sounds about like what I need. I don't really know where I'm going or what I'm doing. I made a few $1,000 freelancing, but I'm not quite sure where I want to go or what I want to do. And so that's how I kind of got plugged in to that community, is through knowing him from a long time ago and then paying to go to his event, paying him for consultation, different things like that.
Yeah, so before we move on to the next part of the tweet, I just have one question I want to ask you about Luke. So, back last year, I was consuming a ton of his content. I was listening to like pretty much every podcast that he was on, just because I was like, this guy has such a good mindset and I want to learn how to think like him. And by consuming a lot of his content and I guess like being around him for that much time, even though I wasn't technically around him, I found that my mindset just started to automatically improve. So, my question for you is, how has being around Luke and all those other guys in Capital Club really changed your mindset? Because I can tell that they all, like especially Luke, have very developed mindsets and and think in a very uncommon way.
It definitely helped me open up my mind to see what was possible, not only knowing him and being friends with him, but then also meeting other people inside that community. So I think that's one of the most important things about community is you're able to, just like just like in your high school, just like at your university, you're able to kind of move yourself in the direction of the type of person that you want to be, and then find that type of person inside that community. So thankfully Capital Club was big, and it wasn't just Luke. There was other people inside the community that also helped me see certain things, right? Eventually you meet people and you see how easily they made money online, and you learned how they did things, and you talked to them and you became friends with them, and then all of a sudden all of these things, this money, just became like numbers on a screen. So Luke for sure definitely helped me a lot with my mindset of being able to like open up and see what was actually possible, and see how a lot of it is just kind of inside your head, and you're able to kind of overcome things that other people tell you aren't possible, or even physics will tell you it isn't possible. But if you can believe them and actually do them, then they are possible, right? Um, but another thing, as I mentioned, was the community, being able to meet so many different people that made money in so many different ways. To me, it was like, okay, well, how can it not be so easy? Like, this guy over here is making millions doing crypto. This guy over here's like Luke at that time was making millions doing drop shipping. This guy over here is selling courses and making millions. This guy over here manages social media accounts and makes millions. Like, all these people are just making a ton of money online, a ton of different ways, hundreds of different ways. And it really helps you see, like, wow, if they can do it and it can be done so many different ways, there must not be anything special to it. right? You must not have to be very special, because a lot of the guys that I met too weren't necessarily special people. They're just regular people, just like Luke, just like me. We're just regular people that have kind of just opened up our mind to things in a different way. So mindset is a huge thing, and he definitely did help me with that. But I think when you're inside of a community and when you're able to see certain levers people are pulling to make money, it's wild. How it opens your mind to possibilities. And then all of a sudden, it's not a limiting belief inside your mind. It's like, wow, I can make tons of money online. And then when you see $1 million in the bank, you're like, wow, that's not that much anymore. And then you see someone else that has a billion, and you're like, wow, that's a lot. But seeing people that have that opens up your mind to the possibilities of being able to have it.
Yeah, I found that's been like the exact same case for me doing this podcast, like being around people like you and other successful people has really developed my mindset and just made me believe that it's possible for me to find success and do similar things to the people who I'm interviewing. So the next part of your tweet says you have to step over others in order to level up.
Yeah, so I mean it's the same situation, right? Like there will be people in your lives that do hold you back. It's just the reality of it. It's not like a negative, I'm better than them, they're not as good as me. Like you can take it in any way. And your parents told you the same thing throughout high school, and they weren't wrong. There is such thing as bad peer pressure, right? So when you're in high school, there's the guy that's making fun of everyone, that's bullying people, that's distracting people during class, that's not getting good grades, whatever. And it was just fine for you to step over that person and to avoid that person and go past them and go to a different group of people. But for some reason, as adults, when we say, well, you just need to push some of your friends aside because they aren't good influences, for some reason, that's like sometimes a negative thing of like, oh, well, who do you think you are that you need to push those people aside? Well, it's like, well, it's something that we've been taught our entire lives, that there is such thing as bad peer pressure, and that good peer pressure, and that the people that you surround yourself with have a huge impact on what actually happens to you and what you actually do. So there is an aspect of life where you kind of do have to push outside that and step over those people that have bad peer pressure on you. And once again, not in a negative way. You're not being like, hey, you're horrible people, I never want to see you ever again. It's just like, hey, you know what? I'm going a different way. I don't want to get distracted in class anymore. I want to learn. I want to do this or blah, blah. And your parents would have commended you back then. But for some reason nowadays, it's something where society is like, oh, well, you just think you're better than us now and you want to go off and do this and blah, blah. And it's like, no, you know what? You're just not going the way that I want to go. And I'd rather be in an environment with people that are pushing me to be better, right? You never want to be the smartest person in the room. And if you are the smartest person in the room, then you are in the wrong room, right? So that has to be the same exact thing with your friends, with the people that you're with on a regular basis, even with some family. If there's family that's holding you back, if there's family that's pushing you down, sometimes you just need to move to a different country and uproot and figure out what you want to do with your life. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think there is an aspect of society that's like, oh, you're mean if you try and push people back because you just think you're better now and you want to go make something of yourself and make money and blah blah and and who do you think you are, and I'm just as good as you. Why do you? And yeah, you are, but you're not going the same direction that I want to go. So it's okay for us to part ways. It just is.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like that metaphor of crabs in a bucket. Like if one crab tries to escape, the other crabs all pull that crab down so it stays in the bucket and can't leave its environment. So the next part of your tweet is you have to obsess over the work. And the person you become is the real win.
Yeah, I mean, you do need to obsess over your work because you have to actually love what you're doing Like, I don't actually encourage many people just to go out and make money doing things that they don't like. Some people are like, oh, sometimes you just need to get that first dollar. And it's true. Like, I don't like SEO, and I started in SEO, and that's how I made my first dollar online, and it's helped me get to where I am today. So sometimes you don't necessarily need to obsess over the actual thing that you're doing. And a lot of people are like, man, I just need to find that ideal thing that's my passion, that I like doing, that I'm good at, whatever. Find something you're good at. That's the only thing that you really need to do, is just find something you're good at. And then from there, once you actually start making money and you actually build yourself up, then you can start doing things that you're passionate about. It wasn't until about 2 years into my starting that I'm actually able to do things that I'm passionate about, building community, nonprofit work, etc. Before that, I had to do a lot of boring and mundane things that I didn't do, but I was able to work on things that I was obsessed with. Like, I was obsessed with sales. I was obsessed with getting leads. I was obsessed with running ads. And so I was able to obsess over that work and really put my head into it, even if it was for something that I didn't necessarily like. So there is a little bit of obsession that you do have to find with what you do. And the obsession that you really need to have is obsession of the long term, is obsession of where you're trying to get yourself, is the obsession of what the result you're trying to get. And it's not always the prettiest way, and it's not always through working on your passion or what you like to do. Sometimes it has to be doing things that you don't like to do. And generally it is at the beginning.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're basically saying that you gotta focus on solving an actual problem and making money doing something that other people actually need that you might not love before you go ahead and try and find your passion. Yeah, and that's basically what I'm doing with my car detailing business right now. Like, I don't exactly care if dog owners have clean cars, but I know that this is a good way for me to make money and gain experience in business, which will also let me pursue what I'm actually passionate about.
Yeah, and sometimes the thing that you're good at, and sometimes the first thing you stumble upon isn't what you want to do for the rest of your life. And I feel like a lot of people are just looking for the perfect reality for them, of like, man, I just need the perfect job. I need to do the perfect thing. And you know what? Sometimes it just means like going out and building a lawn mowing business. Do you want to mow lawns for the rest of your life? Absolutely not. But it could make you the money that you need to get started on what you actually want to do. And you could even build an empire with that. Sometimes the pretty things are the things that don't make the most money, and the things that people see the most on social media. But it's sometimes the mundane things that make the most money. There's this guy that I met that during COVID, he would deliver these containers of masks, of those masks to the U.S., to hospitals, different things like that. And the dude made millions and millions just off of these masks. Now, is selling masks your passion? Probably not, right? And if you don't think they even help people, then it's even less, right? So for me, it's like, find something that you're good at that'll make money. And then from there, you can start investing in your passions. And it's not always going to be the prettiest thing.
So the next part of the tweet was many businesses are focused on taking money from people in a legal way.
I mean, it's true. You're basically exchanging value. So money, people have a misconcept about money because they think money in itself holds a value. And it's not true. Money was created as an exchange of value. They were originally IOUs, right? So it was, hey, I have potatoes. You don't have anything to trade me right now. So I'm going to give you this note right here that says, I owe you X amount for said potatoes, right? And that's how money started, right? It was always an exchange of value, of, I don't have anything to give you of value right now. So I'm going to give you this that you can then use to exchange for something else when you needed it. So that when I come by with onions or pans or whatever, you can give me that note back and I will give you the onions or the pans or whatever it is that you wanted. Money was always an exchange of value. It never held value in itself. If you had that IOU, you had nothing because you needed food, you needed something for it, right? And so people oftentimes think of money as something that you just need to hold and you need to possess and you need to keep and you need to not let go and you need to just have $1 million in your bank account, right? And that's not true because the more you try and hold and possess money, the more money will leave you, right? Because money, the purpose of money is to be used for an exchange of value. So if I'm trying to hold on to money, the nature of money is the opposite of what I'm trying to do with it, right? The nature of money is to be exchanged for something. So when I get money, I need to immediately exchange it for something, right? So it's the same thing when you're trying to do a service for someone, right? Like you are giving me value in exchange for a value that I'm doing for you. You need my services. You need my SEO. You need my Amazon for your e-com store. I need to build my passion. I need to build a community. I need to pay for rent. I need to do this. So I am taking your money for something that you need from me, and then I'm using that money to go pay for rent. I'm using that money to go pay for food. I'm using that money to go invest it towards my passion, right? But when you have money and it's stagnant, you won't find money, right? Because money is a very fast, I mean, if you think about the words, and Luke talks about the words and the meaning of money a lot. Like if you think about money, it's currency, right? And currency is what? Like a current, like a river, it moves fast, it's liquid, it's liquidity. And so when you're looking at money in that way of something that's constantly moving, like you can't grab liquid. You just need to move it into the direction that is going to provide the most value for you, right? So if I see liquidity moving in a certain direction, the only thing that I need to do is build a funnel or build a levee so that it moves that liquidity in the way that I want it to go. If I'm building a dam and trying to store it, it's going to get stagnant. It's going to get just gross, right? That's what happens with water. It gets mosquitoes, it becomes a swamp. And nobody wants that, right? You don't want nobody wants that with their money. So it's the same thing when you're talking about a service is I am finding something that people need and that they're willing to exchange value for, right? They're willing to exchange their hard-earned dollars for. So that then I can take that and move that currency, move that flow of cash into a different direction that's then going to make me more cash, or that then is going to make the stream move faster, right? Because we're talking about, once again, we're talking about momentum. If I see money, currency moving slowly, my goal is to take it and move it at more of an incline. And how do I make currency move faster? Well, by pushing it faster and by moving more to it. The more currency you move, the more money you move, the faster it moves, right? So it is that exchange of like, hey, I have something you need, you have something I need, and not trying to hold on to that of like, man, I just need money, I need money. And if money is your motivation for things, you're not going to get money. That's the problem with a lot of people is they're just like, man, I'm just trying to make money. I'm just trying to get money. And those are the people that are the richest quick and that lose their money the quickest because they get what they want. They want the money and they got it. And then it's over for them. When in reality, what you really want to do is use that money to build something bigger, is then use that money and not keep any of it and move it into something that you can then build into an empire that you can continue to build. And most people are really just like, man, I just got to pay my rent. I just got to do this. This is what I need my money for. And they're trying to hold on to whatever's extra, or they're trying to spend it on fleeting things like nice cars, nice clothes, whatever, that's not going to help them get to the next level. Where I like to take my money, invest it in teams, invest it in companies, invest it in stocks, things that are going to move my money for me, right? And so that is one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about money, is that they can just get it and then that's enough. And that can be they think that can be their motivation too, of like, man, I just need to get money, I just have to get more money. And that's not true. Money is just something that you need to use as a tool to get what you would like to accomplish. If what you want to accomplish is money, you will get it, and then that's it. It's gone.
Yeah, that was a really good metaphor you made with the dam. Like, if you let the dam sit, it just rots. So you have to constantly work on it and maintain it. And I guess, yeah, that's like the exact same thing for money. Like, if you just let money sit in your bank account, then you're just gonna lose it with inflation.
Well, not even inflation. Like what happens when you have money in the bank?
Yeah, it just sat there and like nothing really happened to it.
It just gets spent. You don't know how. You just start buying things and then all of a sudden your account's at zero again, right? And so if you're leaving money stagnant, it'll get spent because there is no value in itself of just having a dollar amount in your bank. Right? I mean, there'll be a certain point where you make a certain amount of money where then it's just kind of flowing through and it doesn't really matter. But if you leave it there, it's just going to get spent. You don't know how it happens. You look back 3 months and you're like, man, I had 10 grand in my bank and now I have nothing and I don't know what happens. I don't have anything. Maybe I got some new clothes. Maybe I bought some new detail for my car or whatever, but all the money just disappeared. So what I always encourage people to do is whatever you make, put it into something immediately that maybe you can't access or that's maybe an investment for the future, right? Like whatever you get, go out, hire a team member, pay them that money to do it. Whatever you get, throw it into crypto, throw it into stocks, throw it somewhere where you can't access it, where you can't spend it, because money needs to be moved quickly. And if you're not moving that money quickly and you're trying to keep it still and you're trying to earn it and you're trying to earn money, which is the wrong thing to do, then you're just going to spend it and it's just going to disappear somehow. And we all look back. I mean, I still to this day, I'm like, man, I swear I had that much money in my bank account. Where did it all go? And then all of a sudden it's gone. But guess what? I've had the same months where I've made that same amount of money and I've pushed it into crypto and I haven't batted an eye, right? Because I haven't felt like I've lost anything. I still could pay for rent. I still got the food that I wanted. But sure, maybe I didn't get those new clothes or a new car or whatever. But then I'm able to use that money and it's still mine. Re- it's still returning value for me. And so if you do look at money as like I'm here to earn money, you're not going to earn it. I'm sorry to break it to you.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Like every time I've just had money sitting in my account, I like it's just left the account. And I didn't really know what happened. Like I checked back in 2 weeks and there's no money there.
And there's no money there. And if you had put that $1,000 or whatever into books, into education, into communities, into stocks, into crypto, into building out your team, into building out an actual legit company, into buying things that are useful for what your business is, then you wouldn't have batted an eye. You wouldn't have. And I promise you that. People are just like, no, man, I just need to have it. And I just like to buy stuff. And it gives me that dopamine hit. You know what's a much bigger dopamine hit? Watching your company grow from zero to over 50 employees. That's a real dopamine hit. Then you're like, wow, I'm feeding families, I'm helping people, I'm growing something that's actually legitimate. And then all of that is just returning dividends to you. It's just returning all of that money that you invested into it. And sure, maybe you didn't get to buy that watch, maybe you didn't get to buy that designer bag or shoe or whatever it is that you wanted to buy. But you have something that is going to return value to you forever, right? It is that kind of passive income that all these people want, but they're not willing to invest in.
It doesn't just boost your money, I feel like. Like it boosts your confidence and self-esteem as well, knowing that you're choosing delayed gratification over instant gratification. So how have you noticed like Luke Belmar and all of the other guys in Capital Club? How have you how have you noticed they think about money differently than the average person?
We talked a little bit about mindset, and it's pretty much the same, right? It's a way of viewing the world or a way of viewing money that's very anti what they tell you in school, right? Like a lot of people, for example, like I was talking about money, is that they say you need to earn money. Your parents tell you need to earn money, and you don't need to earn money. Money is once again just an exchange of value. So it's that mindset of thinking of going from, man, I just need to get rich, to, man, I need to make this money, to then invest it into something else, to then invest it into that, to then invest it into that. And then you're no longer trying to earn money for the sake of money. Your motivation is earning money so you can push more of it into something. Like, for example, if you're preparing for like the crypto bull run, your motivation is to earn as much money as possible, to push all that money into crypto as much as you can. And now your motivation is no longer earning money. Your motivation is earning money so you can put it over here so that it can make you more money, right? So having that kind of mindset of having something, having a purpose with your money is important. Having money just to have it, and your purpose being like, man, I just want to earn money. That's all I really want to do. You're not going to get anywhere. Even if it's like financial freedom, I don't think financial freedom is even a big enough motivation. But there's a lot of people who are like, man, I want to retire my parents. I would really like them to stop working. My mom needs a new car. If you're from a first world country, I'd like to move my family, the rest of my family, to the US, or I'd like to move them to some other first world country in Europe or Canada or whatever. Or like there can be a lot of motivations that are bigger than you, right? That are bigger than what you want. And those need to be the things that you find for yourself. Because if it's just earning for the sake of earning, I see those people blow away like chaff. Like they don't last very long. The people that are around for a long time are people that actually have a bigger vision of where they want to go. And your why doesn't even always have to make sense. I was talking to this guy the other day, and on his desk, he has a medical bill from when he wasn't making very much money, and he could not pay the medical bill, and it was his mother's medical bill, um, and she wasn't able to get the treatment. She was fine, everything was fine with her, but she wasn't able to get the treatment because he couldn't and they couldn't afford that medical bill. Now, this guy runs $1 million business, right? His business makes over $1 million every single month. Could he pay that medical bill now? Yes, he absolutely could pay that medical bill now. But he's still looking at it every day because it brings him that reminder of something that he wasn't able to do because of not having that money. So your why doesn't always have to make logical sense either. Some people are like, "Oh, well, I just want to go feed and solve world hunger." And it's like, "Great, but is that really going to wake you up in the morning and push you forward?" And if it is, perfect, that's fantastic. But you need to figure out what that why is for you so that the mornings that you don't want to get up, you still get up. So that the mornings that you don't want to get to work, you remember, man, oh, that horrible feeling of not being able to pay my mom's medical bill. I can't ever let anything like that happen again, right? Because sure, he could pay that one, but what if there's $1 million expense that he couldn't pay, right? So it's that whatever you have to find, whatever that thing is that drives you forward. And that's one of the biggest things that you learn from a group like that, especially if they have a similar mindset of you, of where you want to go and what you want to do with your money. So not a lot of people know about me, but I got into business because I wanted to start my own nonprofit, right? And so then I'm able now to take that money and move it into the direction that I wanted to move it into, right? A lot of people have different motivations for what they want to do. Luke has a different motivation than me, but everyone has something that they're going to once again take them what the value that they've earned and move it into something that they find passion or that they find more value in. I mean, there's also the aspect of providing for family, etc. But once you get around people with that mindset, then it makes more sense to you of like, oh, okay, it makes sense, right? Like I just need to do that. But like I said, you're also a result of your environment. So when you're around people that are pushing and working hard and moving forward every step of the way, it inspires you and pushes you to move forward further. Especially when you see people pushing crazy numbers, you're like, wow, I can do that too. That's possible. Like those because you talk to the person, you get to know them, you hang out with them, and then all of a sudden you're just like, this guy's got nothing special. He just works hard. or this guy's got nothing special. He's just part of the right community, and so he has the right answers. And I think success is the result of being privy to the right information. And I think you're privy to the right information by being inside the right network. And I think that's really the reason that I am successful today, and that most people are successful, is they've put themselves in the right rooms with the right information. And once you have that information, you're able to do anything with it.
Yeah, you've got a great point. And going back to what you're saying about the motivation, because motivation is more of an emotional thing, you can't really justify it with logic, if that makes sense. Like, you need to have an emotional reason, like you were saying. Anyways, I think we only got a couple minutes left. So I want to ask you the last question that I ask a lot of my guests who come on this podcast. So when you are on your deathbed, looking back at your life, what do you want to think about yourself and the way that you lived life?
What do I want to think? I don't know if it matters to me what I think, to be completely frank with you. The most important thing to me is when I'm on my deathbed is that I was a faithful servant to God, and that I actually truly did what He brought me to this earth to do, and I felt like I worked my hardest to get that done. Um, on a this secondary note, it would be family, making sure that I still had good quality relationships with people that actually loved me around me, and I'm not the guy that dies in the hotel room by himself, or dies in the hospital room by himself. So I think those are the two and biggest, most important things to me. Not necessarily when I'm on my deathbed, but when I die and I go before God and He says, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with the little that I've given you." I think that's going to be the most important thing for me. And then also understanding and seeing around me that I have the right relationships. I don't necessarily need those ego boosts of seeing success or of numbers of how many people I've helped, etc. Those things are great for marketing, but they're not the things that push me forward, right? Like I like being able to say, "Oh, this is how much money we've made for our clients," or "Oh, this is how many students that I've helped," etc. Those are all great numbers. Most of it's just for marketing. It isn't what gets me up in the morning. It isn't what fulfills me. What actually truly fulfills me is just making sure that I am faithful with the little that I've been given. Um, and that I'm treating it properly, and that I am a good steward of it, because it could be easily taken from me and given to someone else. It's not because it's me. The only reason that I have it is because I've chosen to be faithful with God with what I've been given. So I think it's an excellent question to think about, but the most important for me, rather than having like, "Oh, I want X amount of money in my bank, I want X amount of companies, I want have to have helped X amount of people," is that I can just go to the end and realize that I've been faithful with what I've been given, and that I have quality relationships around me of people that I love and people that love me.
Awesome, man. I love that. Well, anyways, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Zach. That was an incredible conversation, and I got a ton of value out of it. So I really appreciate you coming on.